Hello, everybody, and welcome again to our uplifting, upbeat message that I'm going to share with you for today. I'm going to share with you the benefits of a kind of yoga, mindfulness, and meditation. A lot of people are involved in yoga and mindfulness and meditation for the benefits that it gives those practitioners, relieving stress and helping to minimize depression, anxiety. They say that close to or maybe even over 30% of the American population experiences some kind of anxiety disorder. That's pretty high, 30%. That's out of 10 people, 4 people can be expected, or you can be looking at them. You shouldn't be looking at them that way. But if it's done with compassion, maybe it'll give you a more sensitive heart when you are listening to them. But that's how high the percentage is of people that are experiencing tension and stress and pressures and heavy weight in their mind and on their heart. And in order to relieve some of that tension and some of that pressure, many people turn to mindfulness and meditations and incantations and yoga in order to be able to be more focused and more tranquil and to be more at peace with themselves. But I'm going to share with you today a different exercise that is going to be a lot more meaningful because it resonates a lot more powerfully with the soul of a Jewish person. And that's the benefits of prayer. Now, before you turn this off and you say, he's getting back to some old practices that we're all familiar with. Many of you have most likely heard about davening and tefillah and prayer, but the truth is not very many people who already are praying or gave up praying really ever connected with this tremendous strength and benefit that there is to prayer on a very practical, down-to-earth level. The holy Baal Shem Tov, Rabbi Yisrael Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement, he has a tremendous interpretation on the story of Noach and the flood. God commands Noach to make an ark, a teva, and God says to Noach, Tzohar ta'aseh la teva. And there's a lot of interpretations what that word tzohar means. Tzohar means a light, means a shining stone that would shed light inside the teva, inside the ark. Interesting that the word tzohar, those letters can be rearranged in many different ways. So, for example, on the very literal level, tzohar means a light that God commanded Noach to place in the teva. The word tzohar can also be rearranged to mean ritzei, which means to be in good favor, something positive. Or it could be rearranged to tzara, which means to be in pain, which means to be a difficulty, to be something in anguish. All of that is hidden in those letters tzohar. What that means is that these building blocks, that's what it is. Every letter is a building block. Every letter in our Jewish faith represents a certain channel. And just like when you have ingredients, you can put a little bit more of this or a little bit less of that. You can put them in a certain order or in a backwards order. Like if you had just plain letters in the English language, or if you take pieces of a puzzle. Sometimes if you put it in one order or another order, it can turn out to be a completely opposite representation of a picture. So the same thing is also in Hebrew, and it's even more so in Hebrew, because God created the world through letters and through words and through commands. So letters, words, and commands represent very creative forces. And these creative forces are assembled in many different orders, in many different manners, and they bring about very many different results. So let's get back over here to Noach and the command that God gave him to build this tzohar, to build this illuminating force, this illuminating object in the teva. But before that, Rabbi Yisrael Baal Shem tells us that the word teva, besides being an ark, it can also mean a word. And that word, the Baal Shem Tov tells us, refers to the word of prayer. In particular, and in specific, it's talking about the words of prayer, the words that we enunciate, that were assembled by the great tzaddikim, the great rabbis of the Anshe Knesset Hagdola, of the great assembly. And that included prophets and great sages and tzaddikim, and they put together the prayer in a very, very mystical and specific way, in a very kind of spiritual, scientific manner. You know, like, for example, when you take a medication from the doctor, there's very, very specific ingredients down to the minuscule level of how much of one chemistry or one ingredient is put and another ingredient, and it has to be very, very specific for the medication to work inside your body. The same thing is also when it comes to the prayer. It's designed in a very, very specific manner for it to impact the people who are praying in a very, very specific kind of a way, which I'm going to share and discuss with you in today's video and today's message. You know, there is a saying that it's not the water when a boat is traveling on the ocean, right? And they capsize sometimes and they sink in the water. The problem is not the water around the boat. The water around the boat is actually pretty good and pretty positive because that's holding the boat up and allowing the boat. That's the medium over which the boat is able to travel from one place to another. The water is actually a positive force. It's if the water comes into the boat and at this moment, that water and that amount of water is not exactly the right time and the right place for the water to enter onto the boat, that's what sinks the boat. So it's not the water around the boat that's the problem. It's sometimes the water that gets into the boat that is the problem. What are we talking about? We started out talking about people who have panic attacks and anxiety and have stress and have depression. There's a lot of negativity out there in the world. A lot of very, very turbulent waters out there that can flood and overwhelm people. Their boats, you know, the Zohar compares a person's life to a boat traveling from one destination to the other on a sea of water. Sometimes there are storms, sometimes the sun is shining. So our lives are actually compared by the Zohar, by the books of mysticism, compared to a boat traveling over the water. And when we're traveling on our boat, trying to reach our destination, trying to reach our goals, trying to reach our mission in life, and we have all these negative forces out there that are challenging us and pushing at us and trying to bring us down. The problem is when that water, which is right now not beneficial to us, enters into the boat. Those forces can sometimes, those challenges can many times strengthen our resolve. They can make us think and they can help us understand and appreciate more of ourselves, become stronger, more deeply connected with our strengths. So those negative forces are not negative all the way down to the core because, as the prophet already tells us, it isn't all bad what comes down from God. As a matter of fact, there's a tremendous amount of good. As a matter of fact, the essence and the silver lining around everything is meant to be positive. So it's about how we use that water. Do we float on top of it, or do we allow it to enter into ourselves and to bring us down? And for that, the Torah commands us, do you know how to travel in this teva, in this ark, in this word of prayer? Do you know how you will be able to travel and move in a positive way from where you are to where you want to get to? If you put a tzohar, if you put an illuminating force inside your teva, inside your words of prayer. And how do we illuminate this ark that we are inside of? When we read the words of the prayer and we try to understand what we're saying, and we try to understand what we are saying and appreciate the greatness of God, and we try to appreciate the force that God has to bring good weather and bad weather, and the angels that he created, and the angels that extol praise to God. And when you put your mind and your heart to such a degree that it's kol atzmoisai toimarna Hashem yichamecha, you have enthusiasm and you are lit on fire when you are doing your prayers. This becomes a tremendous tool to be uplifted from the water, from the forces that are out there that are challenging and trying to bring us down. Even in a secular manner, there's been all kinds of scientific studies that are pointing to the benefits of prayer. When a person prays to a higher force, when a person deepens his trust and he deepens his faith, when a person generates hope in being able to see a better future, prayer brings about a tremendous amount of benefit in improving a person's coping skills. That's what the secular scientists are telling us, that prayer improves attitudes that a person has, that they should become a lot more positive. When a person prays, this will reduce stress. This will reduce anxiety. When a person does his prayers every single day, it's not always comfortable. You don't always feel like it. But that's the same thing also when it comes to exercising. You don't always feel like you want to exercise, but you have to do it anyway. And once you start doing it, if you really put yourself into it, you gain momentum and you start enjoying it. Sometimes you don't even want to stop. You feel immediately the benefit that there is in getting the body moving. And the same thing is also with prayer. When a person takes on the prayer, understanding that it's to his benefit. As a matter of fact, prayer has a tremendous strength spiritually that it can actually change the will of God. And that's why we ask God to bring cure and to bring blessings to our efforts and to our livelihood, because that is the strength of prayer, that it can actually accomplish those results, those manifestations in our physical world. But even more so, the way it was designed with 4 different levels up to the part that we stand with our 2 feet together, what's called the Shemona Esrei. So we are working on strengthening all the different levels, all the different facets of our emotions and of our intelligence, so that they become elevated and refined and uplifted and imbued with the spirituality and with the strength and with a kind of a spirit that is a lot more like helium. It's lighter than the negativity and then the coarseness that is around us. So today I want to encourage everybody who is listening to this message that when you're thinking about, or when you hear people turning to yoga and to mindfulness and to meditation in order to be able to gain focus, in order to be able to relieve stress and tension in their life, that's very superficial in comparison to the depth that is necessary for a Jew. The depth that is necessary for a Jew is to resonate with the soul, with the spark of God that is within yourself, with the peace of God that is within yourself. That peace of God that is within yourself resonates with the words of the Tehillim, with the words of the Psalms. Who is the one that made these Psalms? The one who made these Psalms is King David. Who is King David? King David was a pure portion of the soul of Adam, the first person that God created. That first person that God created, his soul incorporated the soul of all humanity. And a very pure portion of that soul of Adam came in the form of King David. King David, when he expresses and he composed and he compiled these words of Psalms, they resonate with every single person's soul and portion of God within themselves. Because King David incorporated the soul of every single person as an expression of the soul of Adam. So when you are reading the Psalms, you are connecting with an energy that is certainly compatible with your soul. And it finds a way to resonate and to trigger and to spark that soul within yourself, so that the light should shine, so that it becomes invigorated, so it becomes heated up in such a way that there's a fire within yourself to circulate that blood and to keep you alive. The opposite of being enthusiastic and being alive is, of course, I don't have to tell you. And we don't want to be the opposite of alive. We want to be as alive as we can possibly get. And that soul and that energy is going to come the strongest when you say those psalms. When you say it specifically in the form that it was designed by the people of this great assembly, this great 120 rabbis, of prophets and of great sages. And when we take on this prayer in the exact form that it was designed, then we are taking the incredible sorrow, we are taking the incredible anguish that is in our life, and we are turning it around to a ritzeh. We are turning it around to a very beneficial and to a very beautiful, positive, and willing a support in our life. This becomes a tzohar. This becomes an illuminating light within our lives. And so I hope, after hearing today's message, that when you wake up every single morning and you know that it's your responsibility and duty to do your morning prayers, there's so many reasons that it's a duty and responsibility. But like all duties and responsibility, God commanded us to do these things for our good, to improve and to give us a better life, a blessed life. And although you don't feel like doing it, do it anyway. And try to understand what you're saying. And try to absorb what you're saying. Once you start doing that, you're going to start loving to pray every single day. You are going to do what the Talmud says, you're going to want to pray the entire day because it's going to feel like a dopamine rush. You are going to love it. You're going to be so connected to it. It's almost going to be like a miniature type of oasis of tranquility and peace, similar to the Shabbat. A person who celebrates the Shabbat the way it's supposed to, he loves it. A day where you don't have to worry and bother yourself with all the responsibilities of paying bills and worrying about anything else like that. God's providing the manna from heaven when it comes the Shabbat. And every single day when you're praying, it becomes a miniature taste of a Shabbat. And I hope you will be able to feel excited about your prayer as I'm trying to convey and to transmit to you the excitement and the enjoyment a person can get out of prayer, way more than yoga and mindfulness and meditation. You get all of that and way more when you clap your hands, when you start shaking, you're getting those physical movements. When you concentrate your mind on the words that you are saying, you are practicing mindfulness. When you are saying the words out, you are practicing incantations of strength and of positivity. And in the end is that you will turn out to have an ark, and you will be able to have, through those words, a floating boat over the seas of life that will get you in joy and happiness from where you are to where you want to go. Thank you so much for listening to today's show and today's message. Please subscribe to our channel for all the new and updated messages that you will be receiving from this channel.